was one of a large collection that Parkin had mustered in an attempt to understand his battlefield experience. Harbord's analysis of the AEF provided an interesting diversion for Parkin until he read a discussion of the plan for the Meuse-Argonne offensive, an operation the Allies hoped would end the Great War. The retired major had helped lead the massive campaign as a battalion commander of the 79th Division, a unit that suffered heavy casualties in the first days of combat. Although the 79th was inexperienced in fighting and filled with undertrained draftees, the division had been assigned the most difficult task of the attack, capturing the hilltop fortress of Montfaucon. Widely known as the Little Gibraltar of the Western Front, the limestone butte in northeastern France disguised a secret German observation post that could direct artillery fire on American soldiers anywhere across the 24-mile-wide battlefront. To protect this valuable asset, the enemy had fortified the hill with hundreds of machine gun nests and artillery emplacements connected by a network of tunnels. To eliminate the hostile observation directing German guns, AEF planners deemed it imperative that Montfaucon be captured on the first day of battle. As Harry continued reading about preparations for the offensive, his eyes fell on an exceptionally inflammatory passage. General Harbord described in matter-of-fact terms the logic, actually the illogic, used to assign the 9 American assault divisions to their respective sectors of the front. The battle order was not based on any particular fitness of a division for the duty expected of it. Each took its turn, wrote Harbord. The most distant and perhaps most difficult objective in this attack was given the 79th, which had never been under fire. But such things had to be. The excuse that such things had to be infuriated Parkin. The passivity of the statement was anathema to any competent military officer. Every commander knew that on a battlefield, nothing, absolutely nothing, had to be. In officers' training school, each candidate learned that he was responsible for detecting and correcting defects of a plan, anticipating the unexpected, and meeting every circumstance. When mid-career officers attended the U.S. Army Staff College in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, they were taught to analyze plans and orders thoroughly, identify weaknesses, and develop alternatives for consideration by senior officers. At any level of military command, an excuse as flimsy as "such things had to be" would be greeted with derision. Coming from a senior general like Harbord, the remark was inexcusable. After reading the offending sentence, Parkin could stomach no more. He picked up a pen and dashed off a refutation of Harbord's excuse in the margin of the page. This was poor staff work. Veteran 4th Division should have done this job. The 4th Division had arrived in France months before the 79th and earned battle ribbons reversing the desperate German spring offensive of 1918. Its veterans had developed reputations as skilled, resourceful soldiers who could defeat the Kaiser's toughest men, even the feared Stoßtruppen, stormtroopers. By contrast, the 79th had arrived in France only 2 months before the Meuse-Argonne offensive was to begin on September 26th, and had completed less than 6 weeks of the prescribed 12 weeks of combat training. 50% of the 79th's men had been in the Army less than 4 months. Some had never even fired their rifles before landing in France. Surely the battle-tested 4th, thought Parkin, had been better prepared to lead the dangerous attack on Montfaucon. For some reason, however, the veteran unit was assigned a much easier sector just to the right of the staunchly defended zone faced by the 79th. In an arrangement that complicated cooperation between the two divisions, the 4th was part of another Army Corps, 3rd Corps, commanded by General Robert L. Bullard. As Parkin read the name of the tough Alabama general in the book, it brought to mind a disturbing story he had heard at the recent regimental reunion. The story came from an unimpeachable source, Lieutenant Samuel O. Wright, who had been the chaplain of Parkin's regiment. Nearly 2 decades after the war, he still had the gaunt look of a soldier who had spent too much time at the front. Tall and thin, Wright was a counterpoint to Parkin, who had gained some post-war pounds. Despite their disparate appearances, the two officers had seen the days, as the Irish say. They were brothers, grappling with a common battlefield experience. The compulsion to talk with like-minded comrades drew many veterans to reunions, which were usually laborious affairs. After the final speeches touting sacrifice and glory,
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.